May continuous interpellation.
Thank you, Mr.
Speaker. I was in the process of answering the gentleman from below. Basically, Mr. Speaker, again, I would like to reiterate that the principle of objective unites the more than 100 sponsors of the bill has been the promotion of reproductive health. Secondly, that the impact on the population is incidental to the practice or the promotion of reproductive health. Third is that I did mention the fact that there is also concern among many in our society about the size of our population, to the environment, and to the economy. And among the incidental consequences of the bill will in fact be these micro decisions, that are made at the level of the family, will inevitably have a macro effect in terms of smaller families, because of the choice that people will have around reducing the size of their family in order to be able to provide for their children to have a very decent life and to be able to rise in life. Kaya ho, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, this is a pro-children policy. Kasi ho, this gives the families a chance to be able to have no longer, for instance, among the poorest families, 9 children. They will have smaller families, and those families will be able to, those children will be able to go to grade school, high school, college. This is a pro-poor bill because we're trying to lift the poor into the ranks of the middle class by giving them the choice of being able to practice reproductive health, including these size of families. Kaya po, ibang-iba po yung interpretation natin dito. This is a very humane pro-choice bill. And this is not something that promotes the dictatorial tendencies of the state. In fact, if you look at all the successful countries where you've had reproductive health measures that have promoted the general welfare, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, whether it is Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, among our neighbors, they have in fact practiced voluntary family planning. And yung sinasabi nyo na India po, pero yung sinasabi nyo na China example, that let's just say that most of the countries around us and most of the countries around the world do not agree with this Chinese model. Kaya let's not imply that the proponents of the reproductive health bill would like to reproduce the Chinese model in the Philippines, because this is really far from the truth. We are for the freedom of choice. We are for the freedom of informed choice. And that is what the reproductive health bill will give our citizens.
Mr. Speaker, I don't see that I will not be able to elicit and express an issue from our distinguished sponsor that the Irish is the population to build countries. But allow me to go back to this earlier discussion that the distinguished sponsor mentioned something about carrying capacity as a limit to population. And I would like to ask what the distinguished sponsors of the bill consider as the carrying capacity of our country.
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, I would just like to say that this is my personal opinion that I would just like to articulate here. This is not necessarily shared by the other sponsors of the bill. But as a social scientist, I would just like to share some of our concerns here. the carrying capacity refers to the number of people a region can support without suffering significant social or environmental degradation. When carrying capacity is outstripped by population growth, an ecological crisis develops that erupts in many directions. And this is, Mr. Speaker, in all levels of the natural world. A population in a region always have a relationship with carrying capacity. And if the carrying capacity, which is the ability environmentally and economically to support a certain level of population, is outstripped, then crisis erupts. And I think this is a fairly well-established scientific concept that involves environment, demography, and economics. Now, I would say, Mr. Speaker, that if you're looking for a very specific firm measure of a country's carrying capacity, I don't think I can provide you with that at this point in time. However, let me just say that there are strong indications that the country was either close to or pushed beyond its carrying capacity as early as the mid-1980s, when the population was around 55 million. Ang nakita ko natin dito noon, let me just, dati-dati ho, the migration rate in the Philippines was from the countryside to the city. Ito yung migration rate, especially to Metro Manila. Pero noong 1980s and 1990s, there were two new things that happened that were very worrisome to all of us. And one was yung migration from the countryside, the depressed countryside to the city, was joined by two new streams, which was that the direction of internal migration began to go up to upland areas, open access forests, and artisanal fisheries. So what we saw during this period, because migration was no longer just to the city, but to the upland areas, was massive deforestation that occurred. And what we now have is precisely because of this push of population upward into the natural forested areas. The Philippines has lost about a third of the 10 million hectares that it had as forest cover in 1990. The Philippines, in-explain ko kung ano yung nangyari sa ating bansa in terms of the relation of the population to the economy as well as the population to the environment. So, ang sinasabi ko, dear colleague, is that dati-dati ho yung migration rate was just in the cities. Pero 1980s and 1990s, so, meron na akong bagong feature ito, which was to the upland areas. Nagkaroon ng massive deforestation. Yung second new feature that I was coming into was that yung labor export program mo natin dati-dati, 50,000 people lang po yan, has ballooned. It has become one of the main absorbers of surplus labor, with 6.3 million Filipinos being employed for overseas work from 1984 to 1995. By 2011, with an estimated 8 million of its labor force overseas, the Philippines are the world's second largest responsive. Mr. Speaker, tinanong po ng ating kinatawag from Palawan, ano yung carrying capacity. Nagbibigay ko ako ng isang explanation kung ano ho nangyari dito sa atin. Sinabi ko wala akong population target, but let me just explain yung relationship ko na nangyari dito sa atin. Yung actual population trends that occurred. And I'm not yet finished though. I was just trying to do that. I was just trying to enlighten our speaker as to these trends. Pwede ba mula yun? Alam mo nyo, siyempre, population and conflict are also quite interrelated dito sa atin. Kasi if you look at the 1960s, the population land ratio was about 1 cultivated hectare per worker in NOx declined to 0.5 hectares